After failing to confess my feelings to Aubrey, his family sent me abroad. The day I returned to the country, everyone was afraid I'd get too close to Aubrey again. Even he himself said, "The biggest stain on my life is being liked by my own adopted sister." To keep me away, they introduced Aubrey to many girls. Aubrey didn't turn any of them down, casually wrapping his arm around their waists and telling others with indifference, if she could just get rid of those unnecessary feelings, I wouldn't mind her coming back. It seemed he thought I still couldn't get over him. But this time, I came back for one reason only, to marry someone else. As soon as I appeared at the door of the private room, the air seemed to freeze. The girl who had just tried to kiss Aubrey after losing a dare was standing there. He was lounging on the sofa, relaxed and smug. It wasn't until someone blurted out an expletive that the group snapped back to reality. Damn, why is Moira back? Everyone stepped forward, instinctively blocking Aubrey from view. Just like years ago. They awkwardly smiled at me. When did you come back? You didn't even let us know so we could pick you up. How did you find your way here? Have you eaten? Want to come in for some snacks? I stood still, looked at the room number, and smiled faintly. No, I think I've come to the wrong place. The people blocking the door visibly relaxed. Just as they were about to say something else, a mocking laugh came from inside. Aubrey had his arm around the waist of a girl in front of him, whose eyes were brimming with tears. He pulled her into his embrace and kissed her, gripping her chin. Take a breath. A girl shouldn't be the one to initiate a kiss like this. His voice was lazy, and the girl in his arms blushed deeply. Gripping his collar, she nervously stammered, "Can I be your girlfriend?" Aubrey didn't respond, only glanced at me briefly before deepening the kiss, giving his answer through his actions. The girl was ecstatic, and the others in the room began cheering. I glanced at my watch and turned to leave, but someone called me from behind. Moira. I instinctively turned around, and Aubrey walked out of the room. It had been 3 years, but his face hadn't changed at all. He had a cigarette between his fingers, and his tone was casual. When did you come back? Yesterday. Why didn't you go home? I didn't answer. Now that you're back, stop running around. Go home and see Mom and Dad. I still didn't respond, instead glancing at my watch again, my eyebrows furrowing with impatience. Is there anything else? Aubrey's gaze dropped to my wrist, and he frowned slightly. Where's the bracelet? I froze for a second, then remembered. A sneer crossed my face. I put it away. 3 years ago, when I was confessed to by another boy, Aubrey didn't say anything. He just led the group in beating up the guy, then quietly took out a family heirloom bracelet and put it on me. Aubrey's frown relaxed, and his tone was unperturbed. It's just a small thing, no need to treat it like it's precious. Next time. Aubrey. Before Aubrey could finish a sentence, a clear voice cut in. The girl from the private room ran out and immediately linked her arm with Aubrey's. She stretched her hand toward me, smiling brightly. You must be Moira, right? Hi, I'm Jamie, Aubrey's girlfriend. She seemed a little shy, and as she said the last 2 words, she looked up at Aubrey, blushing. I really didn't have time for this. If I stayed much longer, that man would really get angry. I gave a quick nod, greeting her, hi. I turned and quickly walked away. Before I turned the corner, I saw Eamon leaning against the doorframe. He was dressed in black, his sharp nose and dark eyes hidden in the dim lighting, his expression unreadable. His lips, sharp and perfectly defined, were barely visible in the light. I stepped up to him quickly and pulled a gift from my pocket. Happy birthday. His gaze slowly shifted downward. You're late. I looked at my watch again. The hour hand had just moved past midnight. The day was already over. A hint of frustration flashed across my face. If it weren't for those 2 people I just met, I wouldn't have been late at all. Eamon pulled me into his arms, and with a swift motion, he lifted me off the ground. The flight had originally been scheduled for 9 a.m., and I was supposed to be back before noon to have lunch with Eamon. But because something came up at school, I was delayed and only rushed back in the evening. I had promised to have dinner with him, but then more things happened along the way. The food had gone cold. But the tension between us only seemed to rise. He held me firmly, as though punishing me, and carried me out of the private room. It was a little chilly outside, and Eamon grabbed a jacket from the sofa, draping it over my head. The smell of cedarwood filled the air, sending a subtle thrill through me. A luxurious, understated Maybach was parked by the side of the road, and just as we were about to get close, a surprised yet familiar voice rang out. "When did you come back?" "Eamon." Aubrey and Jamie were walking toward us, Aubrey's arm around her waist. His voice was filled with surprise, and even through his clothes, I could feel his probing gaze. Eamon only glanced at him, his tone indifferent. "Just got back." Aubrey teased, "Good buddy, have you figured things out? Let me see who it is." Saying this, Aubrey took a step forward, reaching out to pull the jacket off my head. I instinctively clutched Eamon's collar tighter. Aubrey's hand didn't touch Eamon's clothes. Eamon only gave him a quick glance, and Aubrey ultimately withdrew his hand. All right. You're so protective, I won't get in your way. Just don't forget to bring her out next time for us to meet." Eamon didn't respond, only holding me as he led me into the back seat of the car. Eamon was well known as a wealthy second generation in City A. He was also Aubrey's best friend. In the past, I often saw Eamon and Aubrey hanging out together. Although they were good friends, back then, I couldn't shake the feeling that Eamon seemed a little distant with Aubrey for some unknown reason. Later, I found out why. The real reason wasn't what I thought. On the day after my failed confession to Aubrey, the day his family sent me abroad, Eamon had followed me. The car slowly made its way toward Eamon's villa, and I continued to lean on his shoulder. The partition in the backseat lifted, and his hand slowly moved up my arm. The cold touch made me involuntarily tense. His hair brushed against his face, and his eyes darkened. The bare skin of his neck was exposed. His fragile skin was slowly pressed against mine, sending shivers through my body. The drive from the club to Eamon's villa wasn't short. He knocked on the partition, and the driver, understanding, stopped by the roadside and got out of the car. As the temperature in the car slowly rose, I bit my lip, desperately trying to hold back any sound. But Eamon deliberately whispered in my ear. "Why aren't you speaking? Are you uncomfortable?" I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but the next moment, I was harshly pulled into a kiss. I could only let out a soft whimper. I didn't know how long it had been, but Eamon finally stopped. His handsome face, illuminated by the soft car lights, seemed completely satisfied. He held me and gently wiped my face. I grabbed my phone, which had been tossed aside, and saw 2 messages from Aubrey. The first was a video. It was a clip of Aubrey drinking with everyone in the private room. Aubrey had a cigarette in his fingers, leaning back lazily in his chair, and said, "The biggest stain on my life is being liked by my own adopted sister. If Moira could just get rid of those unnecessary feelings, I wouldn't mind her coming back." The 2 short sentences. If I had seen this 3 years ago, it would have torn me apart, but now. I glanced at the second message. "I heard you took the bracelet his family left for the daughter-in-law? Don't forget to return it when you have the chance. Don't covet what doesn't belong to you. It should be returned to its rightful owner." This wasn't Aubrey's tone. It was clear who had sent these 2 messages. The news of my return to the country eventually reached Aubrey's parents. It happened to be Aubrey's mother's birthday party, and she called me, asking me to come home. I paused for a moment before nodding and agreeing. By the time I arrived, there were already quite a few guests. The news from 3 years ago about the adopted daughter Moira foolishly liking the only heir to the family was known by everyone in the city. When I appeared at the entrance of the party, all eyes immediately turned to me. There was surprise, curiosity, and even disdain. Jamie was hovering around Aubrey's mother, trying to charm her, but Aubrey's mother seemed indifferent to her. However, when I appeared, she immediately turned and linked arms with Jamie, smiling happily. She then looked at me in surprise and said, "You're back, come here, let me introduce you. This is your brother's girlfriend." She emphasized the words "your brother's girlfriend" as if to make a point, and I gave a faint smile. I handed over 2 gift boxes. One was a family heirloom bracelet, and the other was a birthday present for Aubrey's mother. When I handed over the gifts, I hesitated for a moment, then finally said, "Happy birthday." Aubrey's mother held my hand and exchanged a few pleasantries with me. She accepted the bracelet, but the gift was casually placed aside. There were so many guests today that Aubrey's mother didn't have the time or energy to pay much attention to me. I politely left the banquet hall and made my way to the garden. It had been 3 years, and so much had changed here. I was lost in thought when I suddenly felt a gaze on me. I looked up and met a pair of deep, dark eyes not far away. It was Eamon. Wasn't he supposed to be on a business trip today? He was dressed in all black, surrounded by a group of people. Aubrey was also by his side, questioning him about the woman he had held the day before. He said nothing, just silently fiddling with a ring on his finger. It was the matching couple ring I had given him yesterday. The one on his hand was the one he had forced me to put on him. The one on my hand was his. I recalled the events from yesterday, and suddenly felt a little embarrassed under his intense gaze. I was about to turn away and check if my old room was still available when a figure blocked my path. It was Jamie, her face shadowed with hostility. She lowered her voice, glaring at me. "Didn't you see the text I sent you? How shameless can you be? Wherever Aubrey is, you just have to show up." I said, "What? I was just passing by." But Jamie suddenly grabbed my hand and shouted loudly. "I know you like Aubrey, but we're in love now. Can you stop trying to break us apart?" Her loud voice attracted the attention of everyone around us. Disdainful, mocking looks were immediately fixed on me, just like 3 years ago. Her grip was so tight it hurt, and I frowned slightly. "Let go. Please, I'm begging you. Aubrey and I finally got together. Can you just leave him alone?" she said, her tone pleading, and she tightened her grip on my wrist. Her nails dug deep into my flesh. I winced in pain and instinctively tried to pull my hand free. I didn't pull hard, but she screamed and fell to the ground. Before I could react, a slap landed across my face. The air around us suddenly went silent. Aubrey's mother appeared in front of me, trembling hands pointed at me, furiously scolding. "Moira, I raised you for so many years, and this is how you repay me. If I had known it would end like this, I should never have brought you back." Aubrey's mother had used all her strength to slap me. I reached up and wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. My mother died young, and my father was a comrade in arms of Aubrey's father. When I was 10, my father died trying to save Aubrey's father, and they adopted me. They raised me for 10 years. And now, this slap. It not only left blood on my lip but also broke the bond one had with them for 10 years. I pulled a card from my bag. It contained 1 million. I had prepared it in advance. I handed it to Aubrey's mother. "Ma'am, this is the total of all the expenses you've spent on me over the last 10 years, principal and interest, not a penny less. I'm giving it all back to you." Aubrey's mother froze for a moment. "What did you call me?" Everyone around us turned their attention to me, their eyes full of mockery. Aubrey came up to me, frowning tightly. "Stop causing a scene." "Moira." "A scene?" Aubrey's words made me smile bitterly. 10 years ago, when I was adopted, many people looked down on me. They had wealth and power, while I was just an orphan who had lost both my parents and had nothing. Many people spoke behind my back, calling me shameless for clinging to them. When Aubrey found out, he went after them one by one and beat them up. Aubrey's parents also confronted the other family's parents. They told everyone that I was now their only daughter, on equal standing with Aubrey. Anyone who looked down on me was looking down on them. When Aubrey put his family heirloom bracelet on my wrist, Aubrey's mother smiled and said she hoped Aubrey and I really had a future together. To avoid embarrassing them, I worked hard and got into the top university. I used my scholarship to buy gifts for my foster parents. They were happy, proud of me. But the most excited one was Aubrey. He picked me up in front of everyone and said I'd be his junior from now on. With him around, no boy with bad intentions would ever get near me. They treated me well, and I naively believed that I finally had a family that loved me. But all of that shattered the day I received my acceptance letter and foolishly confessed my feelings to Aubrey. When my foster parents found out, they didn't say anything. The next day, they sent me abroad without a word. They never contacted me again. They had only said they hoped Aubrey and I would have a future, but it was just empty words. I'm an orphan, what right did I have to be with their son? I opened my mouth, wanting to say something to Aubrey, but in the end, I couldn't bring myself to speak. Forget it. There was nothing more to say. I didn't look at them again and turned to leave. But Aubrey grabbed my wrist. His face wore an impatient expression. Today is Mom's birthday. Do you really have to make a scene? His grip was strong, and the injury Jamie had inflicted earlier was still tender, now made worse by Aubrey's hold. The pain almost made me cry. How pathetic. Apologize to Jamie. He sneered, releasing my hand and wrapping his arm around Jamie's shoulders. You pushed her just now. Jamie smiled in Aubrey's arms, but still looked at me with tears in her eyes. It's okay, Aubrey, she didn't mean it. She's just too concerned about you. I don't mind taking a little suffering. Please don't let anything come between you, Mom, and Aubrey. Jamie's voice was soft and understanding. Aubrey looked at me coldly. I'll give you two choices. First, apologize to Jamie. Second, go back upstairs and stay out of the way, or else. I'm sorry. I interrupted Aubrey. Is that enough? If not, I can keep going. Aubrey froze for a moment, then snapped. Good, very good. You've been abroad for 3 years, and this is the way you've learned to handle things? Do you think if you sulk, I'll forgive your tantrum? I didn't look at him again and turned to leave. When Aubrey's mother slapped me, Eamon had come over. But I stopped him with my eyes. I didn't want him involved in this anymore. In the car, Eamon kept a solemn face as he pulled my wrist and silently began to disinfect and treat my wound. Once he finished, he set my hand aside and said nothing, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. I knew he was angry. I leaned over with a playful smile and tugged at Eamon's sleeve. Are you mad? Still no reply. I sighed and took his hand. I just don't want to rely on you for everything. On the first day I was sent abroad, I fell sick. At that time, I didn't have a penny to my name. I sold everything valuable I owned and rented a tiny, run-down apartment that could only fit a bed. With a high fever and aching all over, I worked 5 jobs a day, washing dishes, cleaning, and almost fainting into the water basin several times. It was Eamon who appeared to help me. It was my first time abroad, and everything was unfamiliar. I had to rely on him for everything. At first, I thought he was someone my brother had sent to help me, but later, I realized. He had his own motives. He was after something from me. When I was younger, I had a stubborn streak in me. If they didn't reach out to me, I wouldn't reach out to them. They sent me abroad, and I could live fine on my own. After discovering Eamon's intentions, I started distancing myself from him. I stopped accepting his kindness. But in the face of reality, my pride seemed useless. I was alone in a foreign country, not a local, facing discrimination. Where others earned a decent wage, I could barely make half. I hadn't done anything wrong, and yet I was being treated poorly. When life became unbearable, I couldn't imagine how I could keep going. So, I accepted Eamon. I even climbed into his bed willingly. At first, I thought he was just acting on a whim, and after getting what he wanted, he would toss me aside. After all, how could someone like him possibly be interested in an orphan like me? But, he took care of me for 3 whole years. When I didn't want to return home, he arranged for me to continue my studies abroad. I fell in love with research, so he invested in a lab for me to work in. I didn't want to be alone, so he opened a company abroad to stay with me. 3 whole years. In all that time, my family didn't contact me even once. I originally wanted to explain to Eamon that I didn't want to keep causing him trouble. But when I spoke, his mood darkened even more. He pulled his arm away from my grip. That was when I got upset. Look at me, Eamon. Eamon stayed silent for 2 seconds before turning to face me. But his handsome face remained cold and indifferent, and he still didn't say a word. Fine. If he didn't want to talk, then neither would I. I leaned back against the car seat, closing my eyes. At first, I just wanted to pretend to nap, but before I knew it, I really fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, we had already arrived home. Dinner was ready, all the dishes I liked. I hadn't eaten much at the party earlier, and now my stomach was growling. Eamon was sitting on the couch, in the middle of a video conference. When he saw me, he glanced at me and then spoke in English to wrap up the meeting. Once he hung up, he set his phone aside and picked up an economic magazine to read. I walked over to him, sat on his lap, and wrapped my arms around his neck. He didn't resist. I pushed my luck further, saying, I'm hungry. Feed me. Eamon supported me with one hand and guided me to the table. I stayed on him, not planning to get up. He patiently sat there, feeding me bit by bit. When I had eaten enough, my hands began to wander. He held my wrist and shot me a warning look, signaling me to stop. But if I listened to him, I wouldn't be Moira. I grabbed his hand, wrapped it around my waist, pulled him closer, and kissed him again. In the midst of our passion, a video call popped up. Being interrupted during such moments was so annoying. I didn't even check who it was and reached out to hang up, but accidentally hit the answer button instead. A familiar voice came through the phone. Aubrey's drunk. You should come pick him up, the usual place. It was one of Aubrey's friends. I felt a flash of impatience on my face. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard Aubrey's voice through the speaker. Who are you calling? I don't need her to pick me up. If she wants to make a scene, let her. It's been 3 years, and she's learned to use spite to threaten people. What, does she think this will make us cave to her? Aubrey's tone was full of disdain. So, he knew we hadn't been in contact for 3 years. When I was first sent abroad, my foster parents ignored me. I made excuses for them, thinking they were busy and would call when they had time. But after waiting for so long, 3 whole years, I never got a call. 3 years ago, Aubrey used to go out drinking and partying late into the night. No matter the season, no matter the time, if I got a call, I would get up from bed and go look for him. But now, what does his situation have to do with me? As I got lost in my thoughts, Eamon's gaze turned sharper, and he kissed me forcefully on the lips. I groaned, and he moved away to grab my phone, hanging up the call. Just a moment ago, I had been the one taking the lead, but now Eamon was sitting still, with a firm grip. After hanging up, he cupped the back of my head and pulled me down toward him. Are you still thinking about him? His voice was cold. I opened my mouth to respond but stopped myself. I remained silent, closing my lips. He hadn't even acknowledged me earlier. Eamon's expression grew darker. Don't think about him. As Eamon and I were locked in a heated moment, I heard a faint noise coming from the door. Eamon quickly covered me with a blanket and shot a sharp look at the door. A head peeked through the door. A woman who looked quite similar to Eamon, though middle-aged, still youthful and well-preserved, stepped into view. Seeing her, Eamon's expression softened, and he sighed in resignation. Mom, what are you doing here? Under the blanket, I stiffened. 5 minutes later, I stood in the living room, face flushed red and stiff with embarrassment, awkwardly greeting Eamon's mother. Hello, Aunt. His family probably didn't know about Eamon and me. I lowered my head, too embarrassed to look at her. A shadow loomed over me as Eamon stood in front of me, blocking the light. He looked at her calmly, without speaking. She didn't say anything either. Just as the silence was about to break me, I heard Eamon's mother's joyful voice. I found it. I looked up and saw her holding a phone with a calendar app open. How about this date? It's in 10 days. I'll go back now and arrange the wedding. I was a bit dazed, still processing what had just happened, and before I could respond, I heard Eamon already agreeing. Sure. Eamon's mom was ecstatic and immediately pulled Eamon aside. She took my arm and began sizing me up, the smile on her face widening with every look. Good, good, good. Sorry, what? You're Moira, right? I'm not mistaken, am I? I froze for a moment. How did you know, Aunt? She laughed. Eamon's room is full of your pictures. I already knew Eamon had liked me, but this was a bit much. A whole room, over 100 square meters, all covered in my photos? Before I could finish my sentence, Eamon's mom grabbed my hand. Time's a bit tight, so I'll take you to get your wedding dress first. What's going on here? I was completely stunned. But Eamon's mom had already dragged me out the door, excited, ready to pull me to the car. Just before we got in, I interrupted her, speaking seriously. Auntie, I'm an orphan with no background. I'm not worthy of Eamon. That incident 3 years ago had opened my eyes to reality. I'm sorry, Moira. Sure enough. I smiled lightly. Just as I was about to say something to Eamon's mom, she suddenly grabbed my hand, looking at me with pity. I investigated you without asking, but I know everything about your past. Don't worry. From now on, I'll be your mom. After you marry Eamon, I'll love you even more than I love him. I froze in place. In that split second, Eamon's mom had already dragged me into the car. He hasn't told me much about you, but I was curious, so I looked it up. Sorry about that. You're amazing, getting into the top university, studying at a prestigious school abroad. I heard your research team recently won first place at a world competition, right? Eamon doesn't know much, just makes a little money here and there. If you ask me, he's not even good enough for you. Eamon's mom kept talking, and her words made my eyes well up. That same day, Eamon's mom took me to order the wedding dress. The next day, invitations went out. On the third and fourth days, we went shopping for things, and by the fifth day, the dress was ready, made overnight. I have to admit, preparing for the wedding was exhausting. It wasn't until after we finished taking the wedding photos that I finally had a moment to relax. I realized I hadn't had time to check my phone for days. When I picked it up today, I saw a ton of missed calls and messages. Aubrey's messages were the most frequent. He had sent a screenshot of a hand, a photo of Eamon's hand that had been visible when he hung up a video call with one of his friends. Whose hand is this? A man's? So now you're getting men to play pretend? Do you think I'll still care about you like I did before, just because there's a suspicious man around you? Are you trying to test me? Can you stop being so childish? My patience is limited. If you behave, I might consider you my sister. But if you keep pushing, and you have to. So many words, so annoying. I didn't read any further and just exited the chat. Aubrey's mom also sent a few messages. What I said that day was too harsh, but you know, Aubrey's my only son. He's going to take over the family business one day. You should understand my position. After all, you've been my daughter for 10 years. I still care deeply for you. Be a little more sensible, let go of any inappropriate thoughts, and I'll still treat you as I did before. Aubrey's mom's words left me in silence. I stared at my phone for a few seconds before I closed the chat. There was nothing left to say. There were also a few messages from mutual friends of mine and Aubrey's. But other than friends, teachers, and classmates, I didn't reply to anyone else related to Aubrey. After replying to messages, I browsed through IG. I should have known better, but once I checked, I saw Aubrey had flooded my feed. He posted a bunch of photos of himself with Jamie. Some were from Jamie's birthday, others from their trips abroad. Aubrey rarely posted on IG, sometimes not even once a year. But now, he was posting quite a lot with Jamie. Maybe he was really serious about it. I refreshed the feed, and there was one new post from Eamon. No caption, just a photo of our hands, wearing matching couple rings. The comment section exploded. Aubrey was the first to comment, asking who Eamon was. Eamon ignored him but replied to the other comments, thanking everyone for their well wishes. In the end, Aubrey posted another comment wishing Eamon well, but Eamon didn't respond. This led Aubrey to message Eamon privately, asking if something was wrong with him. Eamon still didn't reply. But Eamon didn't block him either, he just started posting 2 or 3 pictures of us every day. None of them showed our faces clearly, though. The day before our wedding, when I arrived at Eamon's family's old house, I ran into Aubrey and his group, who had come early to celebrate with Eamon. Jamie was right beside him and noticed me first. She gasped, "What are you doing here?" Aubrey turned around when he heard her, and a mocking smile curled on his lips when he saw me. He crossed his arms and looked at me smugly. "Well, you've come to your senses, huh? Come here." I ignored him and walked toward the old house. Aubrey's expression darkened, and he stepped in front of me. "What are you doing? This isn't a place for you to cause trouble." I frowned slightly. "It's none of your business." Honestly, Aubrey was just so annoying. Jamie stepped forward to try and stop me. "This isn't a place for you to barge in. If you offend Eamon and his family, no one will protect you. It's better if you just go back for now. Whatever it is, we can talk about it when Aubrey and I return." Before I could answer, a child came running out of the house. It was Eamon's uncle's son. He was about 5 or 6 years old. He looked around, then saw me, and broke into a joyful smile. "You're back, Moira. Come in. Everyone's waiting for you." He grabbed my hand and led me inside. Aubrey looked on in shock for a moment, then tried to follow, but the security stopped him at the door. Our young master is not receiving guests today. There were quite a few relatives at the house that day, all eagerly talking to me and offering red envelopes and gifts. Eventually, Eamon came to rescue me. His family had a high status in the city. A lot of people came to our wedding. When Eamon and I stood on the stage, I glanced down and unintentionally locked eyes with Aubrey, whose eyes were red. He was gripping his fists as if he had been wronged. When my foster parents saw me, they too were shocked and froze in place. The wedding proceeded smoothly. We didn't finally get a break until the evening. I was so tired that I almost fell asleep leaning on Eamon. Just as we reached the entrance of the old house, we were stopped by a figure. It was Aubrey. He clenched his fists and immediately charged at Eamon. I considered you my brother, and now you're after my sister. Who gave you permission to marry her? His eyes were wild with rage. But before he could reach Eamon, Eamon kicked him away. He was like an angry lion, his eyes bloodshot, repeatedly shouting at Eamon. Who gave you permission to marry my sister? She's mine. Eamon furrowed his brow, about to call the security to remove Aubrey, but I grabbed his hand. I shook my head at him. Eamon's face changed, and he instinctively tried to tighten his grip on my hand. But I was already standing in front of Aubrey. I slapped him hard across the face. You know, I'm only your sister by name. Who I marry is none of your business. Besides, I've already repaid you. My father's life was exchanged for your father's safety. I owe you nothing, and we have no connection anymore. Don't say such disgusting things. After the slap, I felt unsatisfied, so I gave him another one across the other side of his face. Then, I took Eamon's hand and headed home. Since that day, I haven't seen Aubrey again, and I deleted and blocked everyone related to him from my contacts. However, a month later, just as I was about to head out, I saw Aubrey's mother standing at my door. I don't know what she had been through during this time, but the proud woman I once knew looked a bit disheveled now. Her hair was messy, and her dark circles were heavy. When she saw me, her eyes were red, and she rushed over to me. Please go see your brother. Just once. From Aubrey's mother, I learned that Aubrey hadn't been doing well lately. He had locked himself in his room for days, not eating or drinking. When he did come out, he would get drunk and get into fights. He'd ended up with injuries all over, but refused to apply any medicine. This time, he had been racing against someone else, and crashed off a cliff. He was rushed into the ICU. He's still unconscious. Aubrey really likes you. He broke up with Jamie because of you. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have stopped you two back then. Please go see him. I gently pulled my hand out of Aubrey's mother's grasp. Looking at her calmly, I said, please be careful with your words, ma'am. What happens to Aubrey has nothing to do with me. I'm not powerful enough to influence him. After all, I'm just an orphan. She froze for a moment. I didn't want to argue with her, so I turned to leave. But she stopped me. Then, please tell Eamon to stop. He's been targeting our company. We haven't done anything wrong to him, have we? I paused, slightly taken aback. It was then that I realized Eamon had never forgotten the slap I received at the banquet. I stopped for a moment, then spoke to her. His decisions are beyond my control. If you have any questions, you can ask him directly. I would never confront my husband because of an outsider. After I finished speaking, I didn't linger any longer and walked straight ahead. Not far away, Eamon was waiting for me. END